everyone, and welcome to another live stream with VerbatUm. My name's Paula, and I'll be one of your hosts tonight. We're so grateful that you've taken the time to come and share this journey with us, watch these few minutes that we're going to be with you tonight. We have a lot of exciting things we want to share with you. And as we get started, we're going to say our hellos, and I'm going to turn it over to the lovely ladies who are here with me. So, Ina, I'll let you do the honors of introducing yourself.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Ina. For those of you who did not join us last time, I'm originally from Belarus, former Soviet Union. I've been in the United States for a long time. I currently live in the suburbs of Atlanta, and many of you may know me from one of the LSPs that I worked in as an interpreter to begin with, and then held various administrative roles, including lately as a manager of training department. And my language pair is English Russian. And again, I want to thank everyone for joining us. For some of you, it may be very, very late, so we really, really appreciate your time here. And then with that, I'll give it on to Michelle.
Hi, hi everyone. It is the first time to seeing you guys here. This is Michelle, and I originally born in China, grew up in China, but my language pair is Mandarin Chinese, of course, and the Korean. So because of this language unique, I became an interpreter since 2014, and now it's almost 11 years now. I started as an interpreter, like all of other people are here. And then the most recent title was education manager on the department. And I'm so happy here with all of you guys. And again, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
All right, we'll turn it over to Excel. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Ina, Paula. Lovely to join you guys again today. Thank you, everyone who's joining us again tonight. For those who were not here last week, my name is Axel. I have been in the language service industry for about 15 or 16 years now. My language pairs are French Creole, and English, of course. Um, my my most recent experience, I have implemented language access solutions for healthcare clients. And so I'll be here providing my support and addressing anything that has to do from a client or healthcare system perspective, since that's where most of my experience is. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Excel. And for those who don't know me or who weren't here last week, my name is Paula, and I've had the pleasure of working with these lovely ladies for a very long time. And my language pairs were Brazilian Portuguese and English. And I've worked, gosh, y'all are saying 15 years, 11 years. I feel so old
That's
in
no, you're
this
not old.
industry.
We've just all been at it for such a long
I know.
time.
A couple decades, going on 3 decades.
Well, that's good. The
Um,
more experience, the better. That's
there you
great.
go.
You're a seasoned
I
interpreter.
very seasoned. um, and I've had tons of great experiences, both as an interpreter as well in education and training, compliance, and a little short stint in quality assurance as well. So I've been able to get involved in a lot of areas that impact quality and interpreter development. And I'm really, really happy to have been able to work in all those areas because it's given me a really, I think, holistic view. So those are the introductions out of the way. And what we have prepared for you today is really exciting. We're going to be talking to you about what we have in store, the plans that we have, the solutions we've come up with, which is unlike anything I've ever seen in this industry. And I want to tell you guys to stay until the end because we're going to be giving a really nice little gift to all of you who stay with us until the end. So don't give up. It's not going to be as long as last week's. We are working to keep it much more concise. We know that it's late for a lot of you, and so we're going to work really hard to not take too much of your time. Having said that, we're going to be covering kind of what our thoughts and goals are for this venture. And then we're going to keep kind of the system we had last week, where I'll turn it over to Michelle and then Ina. They'll present a couple of things. We'll talk in between, and then I'll present at the end, and we'll talk a little bit about those things as well. So now that you're situated, let's dive in. Um, the first thing I want to touch on, and it's something that we have heard from you guys in comments and messages that were sent. And it's a question that we've seen in other areas where people are asking for a labor union. And when we were talking about what we could do to make a difference in this industry, we did consider and we did reflect on whether or not a labor union would be a viable solution. I know that a lot of interpreters have been asking for this. I recently attended a live group of interpreters. They were meeting together to discuss mental health and other issues inside of the industry. And many interpreters brought up, we really want a union. Why isn't there a union? And so we really did look into that and try to see if that would work. However, the more we researched and the more time we dedicated to it, the more we realized that that was not something that would work. And I wanted to explain to you guys why that is. The first reason was that the labor union technically really could only represent US based interpreters. We wouldn't be able to leverage the same amount of influence for interpreters who are outside of the US if we did a labor union. And the reality is that the challenges that are facing the LSP industry today, they affect every single interpreter, whether they are US based or they are international. And so we really wanted a solution that would be helpful to every single interpreter in the industry. We did think about possibly having affiliates in other countries, which would help us to be able to maybe have a little bit more leverage no matter what country you were in. However, the problem we quickly ran up against with that idea was that we would have to charge very, very high monthly memberships and dues in order to be able to run offices in however many countries worldwide our interpreter workforce is represented by. And so that didn't make sense at all, because we really, really want to keep any type of costs as low as possible so that all interpreters can easily join. And that would not be possible with the union. And then the third reason why that wasn't a viable option was because the labor union makes working with LSPs, vendors, and hospitals difficult. And that does nothing to help you because you need to make money. And so that just didn't make any sense. And so we really realized it wasn't going to work, and we started to say, okay, well, what can we do? We need to have a solution that makes sense and that will really take care of all of these issues that we're seeing in the industry right now. And so as we brainstormed, we kind of turned our sights onto another option, and that was the option of a professional association. Now, with the option of a professional association, there were also some pitfalls if we did it the way professional associations have always been done. And that was something that we really careful about avoiding. There are some great professional associations out there. They've done invaluable work, but unfortunately, they haven't really been able to stem the tide of what's coming for interpreters today, right? And despite all of these associations out there, interpreters are still making lower and lower pay as the years go by. Interpreters are experiencing less and less stability, less and less job security. Now there's the threat of AI, and all of these things that were happening in the industry happened, even though there are some very, very good professional associations out there. And so we really came upon an idea to create a sort of hybrid. We are calling it a professional association, but it is really a hybrid that blends the protective strength and collective power of a union with the collaborative spirit of a professional network, which ensures hospitals and LSPs continue to be well served. And it draws on the best aspects of both. So advocacy and legislative efforts, which is something we're really going to be diving into, especially in terms of the AI threat, which is something you'd usually see with the union, but also fostering strong partnerships across the industry and entrepreneurial potential, which is something that we're really excited about because we have an idea for franchise opportunities for you interpreters to be able to make money, not just as interpreters, but in other areas as well. And that's something that we're really excited about. And so what we realized was that when we put all of these things together, we started to see a viable solution that would be beneficial to you, the interpreters, to LSPs, to vendors, to hospitals, to patients. And like I said, it's something that hasn't been done in the market in the way that we're looking to do it. And we are so excited to bring it to you today. And so let me just share a couple of more things, and then I'm going to turn it over to Michelle. But I want to just give you an overview of what we are calling our 4 pillars. So the way we're doing this is there are 4 pillars to the VerbatUm Professional Association. And those 4 pillars are membership, interpreter development, the entrepreneurial potential, as well as advocacy. And today, we're going to cover the first 2 in depth. And then next week, we'll cover the business opportunities and the advocacy aspect, which is going to be huge and really, really exciting. And so without much further ado, I'm going to transfer this over now to Michelle. She's going to talk to you a little bit about pillar number 2, actually. She's going to talk to you about the interpreter development aspect in terms of education and training. And she is then going to turn it over to Ina. And I think you guys are going to hear some really exciting things there. And then we'll get back to pillar number 1.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Paula. So here I'm so excited to share with you about the training courses that we can offer to you once you become the member. So these courses and the trainings it comes for free. We offer 6 free courses every year for the members. The First of all of those courses are online, so which means you can take them at any time, anywhere you like, based on your availability. And total are 6 courses annually, and then the first 2 are HIPAA and FWA, while the remaining 4 courses will be vary each year to ensure diverse and relevant learning opportunities. And one of our goals is to support you in your professional development. So please feel free to share any course topics that you'd like to explore. Okay. So the first year, which is the current year of 2025, you will see these 6 courses on our platform. The first one is a HIPAA. A lot of you here might already heard about this. It's a Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So this U.S. federal law enacted in 1996 that establishes standards to protect patients' sensitive health information from disclosed to without the patient's consent and or knowledge. All like including myself, I heard about the HIPAA when I starting working as an interpreter, but I didn't know exactly what the HIPAA is. I just signed the paperwork and gave it back to the companies, right? But now I think back, like this is very important. This is it's regulations that we have to comply all the time when we're working as an interpreter. So it is important each one of us to understand what this is and to remember it. And the next course is fraud, waste, and abuse. So it refers to unethical or illegal activities that result in unnecessary costs, improper payments, or misuse of a resource. Like Organizations and the providers must comply with the regulations to prevent FWA and ensure the integrity of healthcare services. So these two courses we're going to cover first. And then the third course we will have is interpreter best practices. In this course, interpreters can learn like essential skills and ethical guidelines for professional interpretation. So you will see professional ethics, standards, interpretation modes, and the techniques, skills, as well other contents that will help you both in personal and professional development. The next one is note taking. So same as the title of the course, note-taking course, it will teach you various skills to enhance your ability to capture, organize, and recall information effectively. Will help you how to have a memory retention, how to taking the notes more effectively. And the next one will be sensitive calls. I remember when I'm working as an interpreter, especially over the phone, taking a lot of sensitive calls. Like I didn't have proper training for those kind of calls. I was so scared and nervous. I didn't know how to handle those kind of calls. So we prepared this course for you, for the prospective interpreters and the experienced interpreters, teaching them the skills needed to handle difficult and confidential or high-stakes conversations professionally. And you can learn communication skills for sensitive situations or how to handle difficult emotions, etc. And last but not the least is 20-hour medical terminologies. So medical terminology, we can learn from this course like medical terminology structures, body systems, and their terminology, common disease and medical conditions, procedures, tests, pharmacology, medications, etc. So in addition all of this, we will also host a monthly webinar featuring special guest speakers, so providing valuable insights and a deeper exploration of various topics. All right.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You. No, I'm just going to say, like, thank you so much for listening to this, and I will hand it to Ina.
Yeah, and I just want to say something. You just really quickly, sorry, Ina, you do get these free 6 courses per year, and this is not the free gift you're going to get at the end. So there's another free gift at the end. Go ahead, Ina.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Well, last week, guys, we touched on a very important topic with all the changes that are going on in the industry. And we touched on the topic specifically about the new law that is called Fair Labor Standard Act. Paula, do you have the slide?
Yes, I do. It's
and the impact of the law on the industry as a whole, and particularly on the US-based interpreters. So just to recap, this new law, updated law, states that if you are an independent contractor and you work a dedicated shift or you work overtime, and you undergo the quality assurance monitoring and you receive education or training from the company, you have been misclassified as an independent contractor. You cannot be classified as a contractor. You have to be considered an employee. And employees versus independent contractors, employees are more costly for the companies because as an employee, if you're an employee of a company has to provide you with certain benefits. For example, health insurance for US-based interpreters. It has to provide you a company-paid holidays. It has to provide you with PTO. So even though you are making a certain base rate, you cost company more than that base rate because all the benefits are extra cost for the company. So that's why all of these changes that have been happening lately with especially US-based interpreters, the companies are cutting costs and only leaving a minimum amount of US-based interpreters that are necessary to answer calls that are required by certain clients. And although it's really affecting, you may think that it's affecting only US-based interpreters, but it's not. It's affecting the whole industry because companies try to cut costs, and they try to shift the non-US based interpreters as well and shift them to the BPO structure to save on operating costs. Yeah, but there is a solution in Paula, if you can put the second slide in, thank you. There's a solution for you if you still want to, if you US-based interpreters still want to remain as an independent contractor. And the solution is to incorporate. You can open your own company, whether it's a limited liability company or S corporation, and you can still remain an independent contractor, but you will be, the company, the LSP will not be dealing with you as an individual. It will be dealing with the company. So this way you may remain as independent contractor. You retain your flexibility. You can work for multiple companies at the same time. And you will have some financial benefits as well. And you will have some tax advantage. It may not, if you Google the tax advantage of individual working as individual versus LLC or S corporation, you may not see a big difference if your income is not high in the beginning. But like I said, because of your flexibility being as a company, still being as independent contractor, you can set your own hours. You can work for multiple companies and generate multiple streams of income from different companies. In this way, you are going to have basically your income is going to grow, and that's going to reflect on your tax benefit. So and another benefit for you, basically, that the companies, because they don't have to, they're not dealing with employee anymore, individual, US individual, they can be more flexible to hire you, still hire you from US based, but work with your company instead of yourself. So we here at VerbatUm, we are offering a special service for you as a VIP service for our members. We can assist you with a business formation because it does involve several steps that you may not be familiar with, and different states have different requirements. And we're all knowledgeable about those requirements, so we can assist you at a discounted rate. We can use a discounted rate to set up your company, and we can offer you a further consultation along the way, because not only you have to incorporate as a company, you also have to file a tax return later, so you have to get a certain tax ID number for your company. So with a discounted rate, we can assist you with all that. And of course, if we still have that service as independent standalone service as well at the regular rate. But if you are our member, of course, we're going to offer it to you at the discounted rate.
Yeah, and this is really great because as we talked about last week, and if you've seen a short that we put out this week, really explaining the Fair Labor Standards Act, a lot of companies in the U.S. are shying away from working directly with individuals in the U.S. in a U.S.-based setting. So if you're an interpreter and you live in the U.S., companies are really scared to bring you on board as an independent contractor because of the Fair Labor Standards Act. And so they're getting rid of a lot of their US-based interpreters. They're hiring only a very small portion because, as Ina said, a an employee costs the company significantly more than an independent contractor, because an employee, they have to pay taxes on, they have to pay Social Security and a host of other benefits. And so by assisting you guys to be able to open an LLC, you now contract with that company, not as an individual, but as a company. When you contract as a company, the Fair Labor Standards Act does not apply to you. And so you become less of a liability to the LSPs. And so it makes it easier for an LSP to bring you on if they're bringing you on as someone who is incorporated than if they're bringing you on as an individual, because they won't run into any problems with the Fair Labor Standards Act if you are incorporated. I do see that there's a question here asking if you'll be able to benefit from that if you are not US based. This really is a benefit to US based interpreters, and here's why. This law does not affect anyone outside of the US. The Fair Labor Standards Act only affects US based interpreters. Unfortunately, companies are using this as an excuse to also shift their international interpreters over to BPOs and vendors, but it is not, that part of it is not because of the law. But US based interpreters, they are going to be losing a lot of their contracts because of this law. And then secondly, it is a help in terms of taxes. There are more things that you can count on your taxes that you can put in as deductions when you are an LLC versus as an independent contractor. It does get a little bit better the more you earn. So if you're earning 40, 50,000 a year, it's you're going to have maybe minimal differences in your taxes. But if you do earn more than that, then you start to really reap those benefits, those rewards. And like I said, it just makes you less of a liability for these LSPs that are really scared of the Fair Labor Standards Act. And for those of you who are probably wondering, the membership with us is not expensive at all. We're going to get to all the prices at the end, but I will tell you this, it's less than a meal. And that's the cost for the month, is less than the cost of a meal in most places that you go out to eat in. So it is a very, very affordable membership. We're working our hardest to make this super affordable because you do need that assistance. And we know that unless we come together, things aren't going to change. And so we're trying to make this as affordable and as accessible as possible. Now, having said that, we do have, and we'll discuss this next week, we do have other business opportunities that are available to both people in the US as well as outside of the US. And we're going to be talking about that in next week's live stream. So sorry, Ina, I
No,
jumped in here.
I wanted to answer somebody's questions about the tax ID. The tax ID that you're referring to is the individual tax ID. This is a little bit different. This is what once you file, once you incorporate, whether it's LLC or S corporation, you will have a different tax ID that is called EIN. So this only applies to the corporation. It's not the same tax ID that you're referring to. And also to go back to the previous questions regarding US based versus non-US based, although it only affects more of US based interpreters, it's like a domino effect because the companies that are getting rid of US based interpreters, they may also at some point lose the clients that may require only US-based interpreters for their calls or for specific calls. So if the companies lose clients, it's less business for the LSP. So eventually it will reflect on non-US interpreters as well. So it's not, it may start with only US interpreters, but the wave will reach other interpreters as well.
So I don't know if anyone has any other questions before we move along, or Michelle or Excel have anything they'd like to add, or we jump ahead?
No, I think you covered everything. I'm keeping an eye on the questions. Thank you, Carlos, for your questions. No, I think we're okay.
All right. All right. So thank you, ladies. So now we're going to talk about the membership. The membership is really where we are most similar to, in some ways, in the sense of being a collective, right? Where we're most similar, I would say, to what you would think of as a labor union model. And I'm going to change the slide up here. And we're going to talk a little bit about why we chose this model and why we think that this is a really important model. Like I said, this is the part that resembles a union the most, and I think this is what most interpreters think about when they think of a union. So this professional association is built on the idea that strength comes in numbers. The more interpreters we have as members, the greater our collective voice and the stronger our bargaining power, and the higher your chance of having a seat at the table. The reality is that interpreters don't have a voice because we're not organized as a group, as a collective, right? And if you think about it, it makes sense. An LSP, right, a language services company, it's not one person trying to do a job alone. It's part of a collective. When you think about a vendor company, a corporation, a hospital, an industry, the reason that things happen the way they do is because it's not a lone person trying to get the best rates for what they're doing, or trying to get a contract by themselves. It's an entire organism, and we realize that that's the reason why it's so important to understand that there is so much to be gained by coming together as interpreters. And this isn't just about having a community where you can connect with other interpreters and share tips and support each other or mentor each other, though you will be able to do all of those things in our groups. However, this is about much, much more. This is about creating real leverage to negotiate better pay, better working conditions, and better opportunities. And so it's more than just a community, right? And I want to just kind of cover a few of these bullet points with you here. If you're alone, you have no bargaining power as an individual. You have no leverage, other than, as we spoke about last week, unless you speak a very, very rare language, right? But for the majority of interpreters, that's just not the reality. LSPs and vendors set rates without input from interpreters or representatives, which often leads to stagnant or declining pay. So you end up with lower wages as an individual interpreter. You end up isolated with no support system. So you're left to navigate the industry by yourself without any guidance or backup. And you're open to exploitation and unfair practices. So there are many ethical companies out there that are really good companies and really do care about interpreters. Many LSPs out there that really care about the industry, they care about the patients, the hospitals, and they're doing their best to do a phenomenal job. But the reality is that there's also a lot of people out there who aren't as ethical. And so when you are by yourself, companies can dictate terms and introduce unfair policies and pay late or not at all without consequence, especially if you're an international interpreter, right? If you work internationally and the company is in the US, it becomes pretty difficult for you if the company isn't acting ethically because you're in a completely different country. It's a lot harder. And so when you think about the collective, you realize that you have stronger bargaining power because as you guys come together into one location, it's possible for us to negotiate better wages, better contracts, improved working conditions. You have better opportunities because companies will prefer to hire from a trusted, trained, organized pool of interpreters than kind of sifting through all of the interpreters that are out there to try to find an interpreter that works well for them. You'll have community and support, and you'll have access to a network of interpreters who share in the same experiences as you, who can give you advice, mentorship, and even advocacy. And then we can work together as a collective to challenge unfair industry practices and advocate for better treatment and for better legislation. And also ongoing training and certification, as Michelle mentioned. We're not charging for courses. Like I said, our membership costs are the cost of a meal. And within that, you will have access to 6 courses every year, free of charge, just for being a member. And these are courses that when you go and you apply for a job, every LSP loves to see, oh, this interpreter has HIPAA, this interpreter has a certificate in medical terminology, this interpreter has a certificate in sensitive calls. And all of these things make you a much more appealing candidate, right? And so it helps you to get hired by a company that pays better rates. And then compliance and legal support, assistance with business registration, compliance monitoring, and industry regulations, as Ina brought up before. So those are kind of why it's important to really consider being part of a collective, being part of a professional association, right? But it's not just about community. It's not just about community between interpreters. It's also about partnering with hospitals, LSPs, and vendors who truly care. So I think sometimes we think, the solution is to find something for interpreters. And yes, that is a solution. But the reality is that we have to work together, right? We need to find solutions that are viable for you as an interpreter, but that are also viable for the LSP, for the vendor, for the hospital, because if it's not viable, it won't work. And so I think that's also something where many professional associations in the past, they fight for the interpreters, but because they're not making those connections that make sense, you're not really seeing much happening. And so we're really working hard to partner with hospitals and others who really care about interpretation quality, industry standards, positive patient outcomes, and fair and equitable interpreter pay. And so our goal is to build up this interpreter community so that they can hire directly from our pool of highly trained, qualified interpreters. And because they're hiring from this pool, we are able to leverage that pool to say, hey, we've taken all of these things off of your plate. You need to pay a fair and decent way. And to explain that, I'm going to take you back to something we talked about last week. Remember when we discussed an LSP's overhead, the costs that they had to do business? Let me pull up this slide here. I think it's going to be really eye-opening. You guys will give me just a second, because I'm having a little bit of technical issues here. Where is it? Okay. Here we go. LSP expense. Remember when we talked about this last week? We mentioned all of the places that an LSP tends to spend its money on, right? We talked about how LSPs spend a lot more than vendor companies, and that's because they invest in things such as education and training, interpreter compliance, quality assurance, recruiting. They have all of these different expenses, right? And one of the things that we're trying to do with this association is that as you become members and as we provide you with things such as education and training, that's something that the LSP, the vendors, they don't need to worry about. The hospitals, they don't need to worry about, right? We also will be providing quality assurance, candidate assessments. And so the part that they spend a lot of money on in terms of quality assurance, they don't need to worry about that if they're partnered with us, because we can provide all of that as well. And so interpreter compliance, we're going to be pulling federal exclusion lists such as SAM and OIG, which is something that hospitals really want to see done. And a lot of LSPs and vendors struggle to keep up with. So every month we can pull those exclusion lists. And all of these things that we're doing on our end, they're getting taken off of this pie. And so as those things are removed from this pie, there's more money left on the table to be able to negotiate better pay for you, and also for the LSPs and other companies to make a decent profit. And so that's where we think, by partnering together directly with you, the interpreters, to supply all of these things, we're really able to free up some more space to get you the rates that you deserve. And so, to give you a better understanding of that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about recruiting. And it's something that I think most people don't stop to think about. How much do you think a company spends on average to recruit a single interpreter? And I'll let the ladies answer while I pull up this slide here, because and I'll give you guys a couple minutes to think about it. you're an interpreter. How much are these companies paying to bring you on board? And now I'm not talking about a vendor. Vendors tend to not put as much into it in terms of candidate assessments and, going through multiple candidates before they find the right fit. So I'm talking about an LSP that is serious about quality, that is serious about care. I see Magda wrote $1,000. So thank you, Magda. Yeah, post it in the chat. How much do you guys think they're spending? And then I'll also let the ladies here tell us what they think or what they used to think before they came into the industry.
I don't know. 500.
Well, personally, I never thought about this.
Yeah.
Never thought about it.
I
How much
have
are
an
we-
idea. I have an idea of how much it is, just because I kind of worked in the business for a long time.
Mhm.
But there's a lot. I just want to point out that there's so much that goes into it. It's not just finding a person and then, going through their resume and vetting them, vetting their qualifications. There's so much more that goes into it. There are assessments that go along with the vetting, right? There's a lot of documentation sometimes that has to be collected, quality assurance. There's so much that goes into it. So I already have an idea. I wanted somebody else answer. Carlos answered 1,500. These are great guesses, considering everything that's involved in the recruiting process, all the hours, all the manpower that's involved. These are great guesses. Michelle,
No,
Ina,
for sure.
Mhm.
I said 500. I don't know.
I would,
Right.
yeah, my guess would be along the lines as 500 as well.
Long
And then
lines,
again, it
500.
depends on the LSP. It depends on their practices as well.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on their workforce, how many people that they have involved in the recruiting process. So there are a few variables there.
For sure. For sure. So we don't have any more guesses in the comments. So
We
let
have
me pull up.
1,000 and 1,500. Good
We
job,
have
guys.
1,500. Very good job, guys. Very, very good job. So I don't know why this thing doesn't want to pop up any of my slides. Sorry, guys. Here we go.
That's okay. Technical
I think it's
difficulty.
going through now. Technical
Here we go.
difficulties. So it's around $400 per interpreter.
To bring
So
one person.
to bring one person in. Yeah. Yeah. And Magda's saying some very lousy companies offer signing bonuses in the vicinity of $500. Yeah. So that tells you some are spending less, some are spending more. If you're offering 500 to bring people in, you're probably spending quite a bit, and you're trying to attract, right, a lot of people your way. It costs money. It costs a lot of money to
It's a
bring
lot.
people in.
There's so many
Yeah.
different people involved in the whole process. Sometimes you think you just work with a recruiter, but that recruiter is working with so many other people from other
Yep.
departments, and they're moving all these pieces in order to align everything to hire one person.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a lot. It's a lot. And here's the thing. Here's where it gets interesting. As you guys can see here, you think, oh my goodness, $400 per interpreter. If an LSP has to bring in 100 interpreters in 1 month, that's $40,000. And it's not uncommon for an LSP to have to onboard a lot of people at different times, right? So it is very expensive. And yeah, I see Magda saying it probably depends on their language. So $400 is the average. So yes, some languages they're going to spend even more than that because there aren't that many interpreters out there who speak that language, right? Other languages, maybe they'll spend a little bit less because there's an abundance of interpreters. But at the end of the day, it is not key to bring in interpreters. And that's where you guys will have, I think, a really big advantage. And you need to think about it in these terms when you think about joining a collective or being part of a membership, right? And it's because if there's 20 people who sign up with us, I mean, there's really not much we can do, right? But if we have 200 interpreters, 600 interpreters, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. I mean, who knows, right? If the more interpreters that join in one spot, in one location, the more bargaining and leverage and power you have. Why? Because you kind of become a place where interpreters can come to recruit, or I'm sorry, where LSPs can come to recruit. And so if you have all of these interpreters in one place, and all of those interpreters are being offered education and training, so you know that these are good interpreters, these aren't interpreters who don't know what they're doing. They're being offered things such as I blanked out now, the candidate assessments. They're being offered language assessments. Only those who are passing are being made available for hire. And those who aren't passing, we're going back and we're training you again, and we're working with you until you can pass. All of a sudden, these LSPs are going to look and say, well, instead of spending $400 to hire one interpreter, all of these interpreters are in this one place. They have everything we need. They have everything we want. We don't need to spend as much money to obtain these interpreters to come work for us. And that's where we can come and say, okay, if you want to work with these interpreters, then you need to partner with us. And these interpreters that are under our care, they need to be well taken care of. They need to be paid something that is fair, right? We're not something that's equitable. And you become attractive by the fact that you are part of a large pool, number one, and the fact that you are receiving education and training, and that you are being brought to the standard that the hospitals expect. And so sometimes, you might think, oh, what can that do? It can do a lot to have everybody in one place like this. And so all of a sudden, they don't need to spend $40,000 to bring on 100 interpreters, but they can pay those interpreters a bit more and make it fairer for those interpreters. Does that make sense, ladies? Does anyone want to jump in there? And
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Very good explanation.
I'm going.
Yes.
I was supposed to have added a different. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say I don't see any questions in the comments. I think you gave the explanation in great detail. So thank you for that, Paula.
Okay. So what would this look like, right? If you are an LSP, if you are a vendor, for these companies, by partnering with us, there's benefits to them as well, right? As we collaborate with organizations that prioritize high quality interpretation services and uphold professional standards, this will ensure that our members have access to trustworthy, ethical employers who value their expertise. And this allows us to work with partners who recognize the importance of trained, qualified interpreters and are dedicated to maintaining high industry standards, both in compliance and ethics and in professionalism. And it also allows us to advocate for positive patient outcomes. So quality interpretation directly impacts patient care and safety. And by partnering with organizations that value accurate professional interpretation, we ensure that linguistic and cultural barriers aren't compromised in healthcare settings, which is something that will make hospitals and patients very happy. I know, Excel, you could speak to that, right?
Regarding the hospitals, yes. Like many of you know, these language access is mandated in these healthcare systems, right? So they're really looking for quality interpreters to provide the service. And like I mentioned in the last meeting or the last live that we did last week, these hospitals, they rely on LSPs or any independent contractor that's providing these services to come or with all of the qualifications that they're looking for. They expect these people to be trained in medical terminology and HIPAA and fraud, waste, and abuse and everything else. They have the expectation that these people are ready to provide the service, right?
Mhm.
They expect it. It's mandatory. That's what it is. There's no other way. So if these healthcare systems contract an LSP or a BPO and so on to provide the service, they're expecting that company or that organization to take care of all of that. Quality assurance, training, qualifications, everything. And
And
and so we
that's
can't
the
lose
beauty.
sight
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
of that. No,
Mhm.
I was going to say we can't lose sight of that. That's why what this initiative that we're trying to launch here, it benefits the hospitals and the healthcare system as well. They might not know it right off the bat, but in assisting LSPs and interpreters on an individual basis, to get those qualifications, to improve their skill set and so on, they will largely benefit from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it also helps us to save the rush towards AI, right? Because we talked a little bit about that last week, how we're looking
Right.
to really work with legislators to make sure that we pass laws that say, yes, you can use AI as a tool, but you can't have AI be the one interpreting. There has to be a human interpreter. And one of the pitfalls of these decisions that are being made right now to just kind of turn our backs on quality, on education and training, send everybody to vendors, BPOs. One of the issues that's going to bring on is a lot of mistakes, a lot of poor quality interpretation. And
Right.
as pay gets cut, we're seeing people being offered $3, $4 a minute. As that pay goes down, the best interpreters are going to leave. Once the situation reaches a level where interpreters are doing a subpar job, let's put it that way, it will look much more attractive to move over to AI. And so by providing these trainings and ensuring that the standards remain high, we also safeguard the profession.
Right.
And so we attack at it from two directions, both legislative as well as providing professional development, because those two together are what's going to keep the industry for interpreters a safe industry.
There's a question
So,
here from
mhm.
Jimmy, asking, in which possibility can the foreign interpreters outside of the US fit into all of this? I want to go back to what I mentioned about the hospitals and the healthcare systems. In layman's terms, they don't care where the interpreter is from, unless there are. I have worked with some healthcare systems that specifically they have this requirement that um, they specifically want US based interpreters, but that's very rare. That's very hospital specific. It's region specific. It doesn't typically happen. Typically, like I mentioned before, these hospitals or healthcare systems, they will contract LSPs or BPOs to provide the services, and they will overlook where the interpreters are located, whether they're in the US, whether they're offshore. They don't typically care as long as there is some level of consistency in the ways that the interpreters interpret and in the ways that they're vetted and their qualifications and so on. That's what they're typically looking for. They're looking for consistency throughout, regardless of the region. So, Jimmy, I hope that that answers your question. The initiative here involves US based and foreign interpreters. So we're really just trying to streamline everything and everyone together, make everything consistent. There's another
Yeah,
question from
no, and just to add to that really quickly, because I think we caused a little bit of confusion when we explained the LLCs. So everything we're talking about applies to both US based and foreign interpreters. This is for all of you. Everything we're talking about is for all of you. The only thing that only applies to US based interpreters is the opening of the LLC, which makes them look like a company and not like an individual for those LSPs that are scared to have independent contractors who are US based because of the Fair Labor Standards Act, because of the US labor law. And so that's the only part of this that only applies to US based interpreters. Everything else we're talking about applies to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're in the US or if you're in Mexico or China or Brazil or Canada, it applies to everybody. Sorry, go ahead, Excel, the next question you were
Oh, no,
talking
no,
about.
no. It was just a comment. Thank you, Ksenia. She said, as you said, hospitals depend on LSPs. They won't hire individuals. It's just not worth it for them. That is true. We talked a little bit about that last week. They typically rely on an LSP to provide language services. When they do hire individuals, and I've seen this happen, and I mentioned it last week, these are hospitals that typically have a language department, so they already have the resources put in place to hire employees to provide the services. And so they will hire interpreters as employees that will come on site to provide the services. They will not provide the services remotely on video or via the telephone. These employees will be there to provide the service face to face with the patient and provider.
And this also opens up the doors. If you are US based and you are part of this association, then you can have access to those opportunities as well for those who are US based, as well as OPI, VRI, and everything else. But I think the big thing to really grasp here is that as interpreters, if you are united in one place with many other interpreters, you now begin to have bargaining power, and companies start to have no choice but to meet fair hiring criteria that benefits you as well as them, right? And that's something that we really don't want to move away from. This is not just a benefit to you as an interpreter. This is also a benefit to the LSPs, because the hospitals they contract with are going to be happy with them, and they're going to want to keep them on as their clients, right? It benefits BPOs and vendors, because if they partner with us and they're having interpreters such as yourselves who are trained and who are doing a phenomenal job working for them, because they're now paying you a fair rate, they're going to keep their contracts with the LSPs, because the LSPs are going to be happy. And so the idea here is that, as you know, that idea of a rising tide lifts all ships, right? It doesn't matter if you're in a little ship or in a big ship, it's going to lift everybody. And that's what we're trying to do. But if, as an interpreter, you remain scattered, unorganized, alone, you can easily be picked off, and companies are going to just continue to get away with offering $3-4 an hour, and no amount of complaining or being angry or upset is going to change that. And so the reality is that we do need to take action, because if we don't, the way the industry is going, it's not going to get better on its own. It will only get worse. And so that takes us to the next slide. We're almost done here, guys. We're not going to keep you guys much longer, which is, if it's going to come on, I don't know. It's not wanting to cooperate. We've had some technical glitches today here. Let's see if this is going to cooperate right now.
Well, again, I think this is a great timing to have this kind of association to represent our interpreters, because this group will not just a benefit for interpreters, and also it is a benefit for those vendors, LSPs, as well as the clients, the hospitals, healthcare facilities. So I remember when I was in the college, my major was a business, and one of the things I remembered was the win-win strategies. So now I think back, this is exactly what it is. It's a win-win for everyone, every party.
It is. It really is. I agree. And having worked closely with on the client front, I know that they're looking for consistency and they're looking for quality. They're not too worried about how much the interpreters are getting paid, but we worry about that, right?
Right.
We do.
So it's important for us to put everything together for it to be a win-win, like you mentioned, Michelle.
Yeah, and I see there's a question from, is it Ksenia? I think it's Ksenia. Please, if I'm not pronouncing that right, forgive me. And it says, how do you see bargaining power? You'll have US-based and non-US based interpreters who have very different rates. And that's a great question. And so, as we mentioned before, one of our goals and one of the things that we're working diligently at behind the scenes is to partner with LSPs and vendors who care about the quality of interpretation and who care about fair pay for interpreters. And as I said before, once you have a large group of interpreters in one place, these companies, they need to hire these interpreters. So if we have a large number of interpreters, it doesn't matter if you're US based or if you're not US based, they need access to you. At that point, we can say, listen, look at all of the things that we're taking off of your plate, right? Education and training, quality assurance, interpreter compliance, recruiting, because you're coming to us and they're all here. At that point, we can say, we expect those interpreters that you get from our association to be paid a fair rate. And so that helps us to ensure that, you are being paid more than what is being currently offered to you, regardless of if you're US based or if you are international. And I don't know if anyone wants to add something to that. And then there's
No,
also a
there is
question about
follow-up
how is this
question.
different from being NBCMI certified? To renew your certificates, you need CEUs, so that automatically means you are qualified. Yes, it does mean you are qualified. I have my NBCMI certification as well, and it's an expensive process, right? Those of you who've done it, you have to have, for example, you need to have a 60-hour course. A lot of companies out here are charging between $800 and $1,200. I've seen a couple go for $1,500. On top of that, you have to pay for that NBCMI or CCHI certification. By the time you're done with it, you're out a good $1,000 to $1,500. It does show that you are qualified, but you're still alone, right? You're still not part of a group. You're not part of a collective. You may get a little bit of a better rate. Um, what we're offering is so much more affordable. I mean, it doesn't even compare. It's like a drop in a bucket compared to what they charge you. And that's not to say that you shouldn't do those things and that you shouldn't get those things, but we want to facilitate and make it so that you can get um, the benefits without having to spend so much of your hard-earned money, because it's not cheap. I mean, I'm in the US and it's not cheap for me. I can't imagine someone in another country how expensive this is for you guys. And one of the things that we are working towards is making sure that our courses will also be accepted as CEUs, so that as you get these free courses, you can have access to that as well, which is also another expense that a lot of you have to undertake when you go to renew those certifications. And again, I think those certifications are wonderful. I think everyone should get them. But I think that there are ways that we'll talk about next week that we would like to offer you guys an ability to get those certifications at much, much more affordable rates. And we'll talk about that next week. That's going to be really exciting as well. So let's go on to the next slide really quickly. We're almost done. There's just 2 more slides, guys. Sorry, 3 more slides. And then we'll be done. So our 4 pillars, right? It's membership, so a supportive community with incredibly low monthly dues. Education and training, these free courses we're telling you about, the franchise opportunities, which next week we will talk more about these, but this is for those interested in launching their own education and training companies or ethical vendor companies under our quality standards. And this will help spread ethical practices globally while supporting local entrepreneurs. And that's going to be really exciting. Wait for that next week. And then, of course, advocacy, right? And so how does this all come together? And I think you'll see that it comes together quite nicely, because as we continue to partner with LSPs, vendors, and hospitals, we'll be able to supply a steady stream of highly trained interpreters and raise the standards of interpretation across the board. And that will mean that companies will have access to the best interpreters in one location. They'll save money. You will be able to earn more, and the quality of services will be able to improve industry-wide. And one of the other things that I wanted to touch on is that as we partner with these LSPs and vendors and hospitals, we're really looking to partner with people who really care about positive patient outcomes, access to quality interpretation, and fair interpreter pay. And companies that don't value those things, they're not going to be able to partner with us. They won't have access to our interpreters, and they won't have access to our hiring pool. And I think that you'll find that those things matter. Those things really do have value, because, like we said, it's not easy to find good, talented interpreters. And with a lot of the changes that are being made right now, that's going to become harder and harder. So, one as we well, I'm going to get to the questions. I'll let you guys kind of prep on that. but I do want to get to the last slide before this gets too long. So let's talk about the tiers and kind of how you can come alongside us. So this is something that we're trying to do at an extremely reasonable cost. We're doing it at $12 a month. So for $12 a month, you are able to be part of a collective. You are able to have all of those courses, which you'll take throughout the course of a year, and you'll be able to have the leveraging power to start to make better connections within the industry. And one of the things that we're doing right now that we're really happy about, we promise you guys a free gift. And that free gift is that we have a Google form that we're going to be sharing at the end of the live stream. It should actually already be in our description. If you go into the description for the live stream, there will be a link there. Every single person who fills out this Google form will get the first month free. You'll be able to start taking course. And this will start on, we're going to give you guys a week. We're going to give other people a week to watch this live, to fill out this form. And so we aren't going to get started this week with you guys. You'll fill it out. And then by next Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, to show our love and appreciation for all of you interpreters out there, everyone who has signed up will be able to have the first month of membership completely free. Okay. We also have an affiliate program that we're really excited about. This affiliate program makes it so that for every person that you bring on, if they stay with us for a year, you get a free month. So if you bring on, you'll have that first month free, and then you bring on another 11 people, you will have a whole year free. So we're working really hard, like I said, to make this affordable. None of us are going to get rich doing this at $12 a month. We really do care about this industry. We really do care about you guys. And we're working really, really hard to make this viable for you, whether you're US based or whether you live outside of the United States. We really want to make it so that everybody can take part in this because we think it's really, really important. And then in addition to all of that, I'd like to just go over our tiers with you guys really quickly. The first tier is the tier we're talking about right now. It's the $12 for that first tier. That allows you to become a member. That allows you to have access to all of the courses, to the webinars. It allows you to also be part of our membership community on YouTube and get access to our videos and that sort of thing before anybody else. And it allows you to have the affiliate sales, where if you bring on extra people to us, we'll have a coupon code. We're going to have all of that, for you guys next week. It'll allow you, as you bring people in, to have the month free. Then we have our second and third tiers. Those tiers are not going to be available right now. They're going to be available in a couple of months. The second tier is for those of you who have decided, you know what, I want to partner with the LSPs and vendor companies that are with you, and I would like to try to be hired by one of them. At that level, we will do a candidate assessment training with you guys, in addition to all the other trainings that you're getting, to help you guys learn how to just, what is expected of you when you go to these candidate assessments. We'll have already trained you for that because we've already given you medical terminology, note-taking, interpreter best practices. And so you'll already have all the skills you need to pass an assessment. And we'll go ahead and train you for those assessments. We'll then offer you an assessment as well as a language proficiency test, both of which you will get certificates for in level 2. That level 2 is $18 a month. And then those of you who pass become eligible to work with our partners. Those of you who are having a hard time, are struggling, we'll continue to train. And if you want to take remedial training courses, we can make those available as well. And for a much a low cost, because as members, any tests or courses that are outside of what we offer, you get at a much lower discounted rate, lower than anything in the industry today. And then for those of you who have passed and who have shown your proficiency that you are at the level that this industry requires, that hospitals require, you can then be hired by those partners. And then once you are hired by those partners, you automatically bump up to the third tier. That third tier is a little bit more expensive. It's $25 a month. But on that third tier, we are then able to offer you quality assurance testing and quality assurance monitoring, which is really great because as a third party doing your quality assurance monitoring, you know that if you're doing a great job, we're going to let you know you're doing a great job. If you're not, we're going to come alongside you and coach you so that you can do a great job, so that you can maintain that job, so that you're not going to lose that opportunity. And so that having us do your quality assurance, we have your back, and we're going to work really hard because it reflects on us if you're not doing a great job. And so we want you to succeed and to do a great job. That third tier is also really exciting because that third tier is where those of you who maybe have dreamed of having your own education and training company, or have dreamed of having your own vendor company, and you really care about paying people fairly or teaching people well, you can also start those vendor companies under us that will then link up with LSPs, as long as you're willing to follow those ethical guidelines that we're trying to put in place for the industry. And so we'll talk a lot more about that third tier next week. We're really excited about that. But that's basically what we're looking at. Like I said, this is something that does not exist in the industry. Nobody has done it. And we think that if everybody comes together, and if you guys say, you know what, I think this is worth it. I think I'm worth it. I think that I should be in a position where I can get better pay, where I am protected, where I am represented, and I'm ready to do something for myself. And you guys hop on this journey with us. I think that it will be the best thing that could happen in the industry today. So, ladies, do you have any last remarks?
No remarks. I'm trying to verify that the link for the document is working. We did get a comment from Lily that it's not working on her end. And so I'm just trying to verify it on mine.
Yeah, and Carlos said he already filled it out, so it seems to have worked for Carlos. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
Lily, just if
It's
you
working
try
on my
a
end.
different email, it might be sometimes because it's a Google form, might only take a Gmails. So if you have a Gmail account, then try the Gmail.
No, I'm trying with a Yahoo email and it's
Oh,
working
it
just.
works.
Mhm. I'm
Awesome.
gonna try again.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm having a little bit of a coughing spell here. All right. I think we'll just give a few minutes in case anyone wants to ask any questions or has any suggestions before we.
Lily says it says the site can't be reached.
We will absolutely work on this as soon as we get off, guys. I will say this. Hold on, let me just start my camera again. I will say this: if you started it and you exited it, you won't be able to do it. So if that happened, let us know so we can reset for you individually, I guess, because you can only do this once. So maybe those of you who are having some issues entered it and then exited, and now it's not letting you do it again. Can you let us know if that's what happened?
It looks like we lost Ina and Michelle.
Okay.
Am
Yeah.
I'm here.
You're here. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
We lost
Ina
Ina.
is in the backstage.
Oh, I've seen
Lily,
that.
No,
There we go.
Lily, I'm not sure
Um,
what's going on. I tested twice and it's working on my end. We're gonna continue some testing and see how we can fix it. Paula, is the link going to still be available here after the call, after the live?
Absolutely. The link is available on the description of the video. We will also be sharing the video throughout the week. And if you weren't able to do it yet, you should be able to get in. If any of you have any issues with it, please reach out to us on LinkedIn. You can do it on the VerbatUm page or on my page or Ina's page directly. And yeah, we can share. Can you share the link in here, Ina,
I can't.
in the
I
chat?
have to log in, and if I log in, it kicks me out for some reason. But I
Oh,
put
okay.
it. I put it on Zoom. So whoever has it,
I got it.
if you
I
guys,
got it.
I got it. I posted it there.
Oh, okay. You posted it already, Michelle?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. All right. Yeah, because it's not showing up on my end, so I didn't realize you had posted it.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
I don't see it either
Let
here.
me try here. Let me put it in. Let's see if it'll go through. Oh,
Here it
went through.
is. Yes, it's
All
here.
right.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
All
there.
right.
Mhm.
So I think that's a wrap for tonight. I know that I said it was going to be short, and I think it's longer than last week. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. I promise you, we're going to get to the point where these are no more than 30 minutes because this is a lot. But we're really grateful that you guys have joined us today. I don't know, ladies, if you have any parting thoughts. Nope.
No, I'm excited to
Alright.
see how many forms we get. I'm really excited for everybody's participation. I think we're onto something solid here.
I think
Yeah.
Carlos.
How to do the
Carlos
podcast.
asked a question. Can I just pay $25 from the beginning? Let's say if I already have these courses.
Yeah, I guess.
You will still
We're
get
we're trying to
courses.
go in phases, right? We're trying to go in phases. We want to make sure that everything we do is really well done. We're really, really big on quality and having things done in a way that, you guys are going to really be happy that you did it with us. We don't want to give you guys something that's not top tier. Those of you who worked with us before, who've taken our courses before, you know that we worked really hard to make them the best in the industry. And that's something that we will carry on. We're not going to ask you to invest without us investing as well. So we will try to do that. I'll let you know. Just PM me, DM me, Carlos, and we'll talk about it. All right.
Thank you guys for joining us
Thank
tonight.
you, everybody. I'm going to start coughing
Thank
again, so I'm
you.
gonna end it.
Thank you.
Have a great
Have a good
night,
night.
everyone. We'll talk next
See you
week.
next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.